Graph the linear equation by finding and plotting its intercepts. Negative 6x minus 30y equals 30. So we're given a linear equation in two variables, and what I found is the easiest way to find the intercepts of a linear equation is to work with a coordinate table. This is called the coordinate table. We make a column for x, a column for y, and a column for completed ordered pairs. The easy way to find the intercepts of an equation is to put zeros like this, almost like tic-tac-toe zeros. A zero in the column for x for one of the ordered pairs, and a zero in the column for y for the other ordered pair. So we kind of have this arrangement. Look. By the time we complete ordered pairs, and we're going to use the table to accomplish this, what we're kind of setting up for is that when we put 0 in for x in the original equation, then solve for y, it'll fill in this missing y coordinate for this point. When we put a 0 in for y and solve for x, then it'll fill in this missing component for x and finish this ordered pair, complete this ordered pair with the correct x value that corresponds to a y of 0. So let's go ahead and do this, and I'll tell you what we're going to end up having is, when you're talking about not moving left or right at all, but moving up or down some amount of distance, moving up and down, that's what's going to generate the y-intercept. This ordered pair is going to be the y-intercept that we can go and graph and satisfy the criteria in this, what's being requested of us in this question. This ordered pair says we're not going to move up or down at all. When moving a 0 in the y means we're not moving up or down at all, but we are going to move some kind of left or right move in the x direction, either negative x or positive x. So this ordered pair represents the x-intercept. So this won't take very long, and we're going to be able to find our answers and graph the line the way that we're being asked to do. Okay, let's work on this, the y-intercept first. What this is asking us to do is replace x with 0. So when we say x, I'm reading this equation, I'm reading it from left to right. When I say x, I'm going to replace x with open parentheses. Negative 6x minus 30y equals 30. Now, what we've set up from our table, our coordinate table, is to replace x with 0. And now we're going to solve. We're going to solve this equation for y. Here's the first thing we do. Anything times 0 is 0. So this is 0. Minus 30y becomes negative 30y equals 30. What we would do right at this moment is we would divide both sides by negative 30. In other words, whatever I need to divide negative 30 by to make a positive 1, this is what solving for y would be, is itself. Negative 30 divided by negative 30 makes positive 1. Now we're going to balance the equation by dividing the right side by negative 30, and what we find is that positive divided by negative makes negative, and 30 divided by 30 is 1. Look, when we put a 0 in for x and we solve for y, we get y equals negative 1. So we are able to complete this ordered pair. 0, negative 1 is where the y-intercept occurs. Okay, let's go and deal with the x-intercept now. So I'm going to copy the equation fresh to work on the x-intercept, and the equation says, but this time, notice, we're going to put a 0 in for y. So when I say the variable y, we're going to open up empty parentheses so we can substitute in the 0 for y. Okay, I'm going to read this from left to right, and this time I'm going to open up the empty parentheses for y. Okay, here goes. Negative 6x minus 30y equals 30. So now we're ready with our parentheses to accept. We're going to put 0 in for y. 0 in for y this time. And now we're going to solve the equation for x. So we begin by saying this. 30 times 0 is 0. 6x minus nothing minus 0 is negative 6x. Negative 6x minus 0, negative 6x, equals this 30 on the right side. Now what would we do to finish solving for x? We divide by negative 6. So that negative 6 divided by negative 6 makes positive 1 x. And of course what we do to one side of an equation we must do to the other. So we divide the right side by negative 6. Positive divided by a negative makes negative. 30 divided by 6 is 5. So when we put a 0 in for y and solve for x, we get x equals negative 5. And we drop it in here, and it completes the ordered pair, which is the x-intercept. So let's go and graph these. Maybe we'll graph them in red. The y-intercept is, I don't move left or right at all. That's that blue 0. When I'm left or right at all, we move down 1 and mark a point. There's the y-intercept. See how it is a point on the y-axis? Now let's graph the x-intercept. The x-intercept is saying in the x direction we're going to move left because it's negative 5. Move left 5 on the x-axis, but then don't go up or down at all. There's a 0 for the y. So here we go. We start at the origin. We move negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and mark a point. And mark our point. And that would represent the x-intercept. So now all we have left to do is we'll draw our line through these 2 points. And it should represent the line that we're being asked to graph. So what we would do in a multiple choice set of answers is we would identify the multiple choice answer that would present a y-intercept at negative 1 and an x-intercept at negative 5, and mark that multiple choice answer as the correct response if this was a multiple choice test or a multiple choice exam.